to Sextras,
where we talk about sex and all the extras.
I'm Honey, and my personality type is ENFPA, the campaigner.
The campaigner. And what does that mean?
It means I'm extroverted, apparently, intuitive, and imaginative, feeling, apparently, and perspective. And I can't remember what
you
the
are
A is.
Perspective.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
Okay.
But it means I'm the most imaginative personality type, apparently.
Oh.
Which is surprising. But
That's
also
great.
not. I feel like I'm quite imaginative in my head. I mean, obviously. Like, where else? So, yeah. That's my
cool.
fun fact. Mm-hmm.
So cool.
So interesting.
No, it is. I'm Maria, and my fun fact this week is that I hate fizzy drinks. I don't like Coke or like Sprite, those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, I don't like. Oh, also like fizzy water, disgusting. Like anyone that likes that is just
I
wrong.
like fizzy water.
Yeah, it just tastes bad. Like, why are you doing that to water? I don't like the carbonation, I think, and also just the taste of fizzy drinks. I tend to find them like really not good.
I really like the carbonation. I love like that like it's such a
that
good
carbonation.
feeling. That carbonation.
Oh god. I mean, besides carbonation though, we we do want to talk about arguing and like conflict and caring in conflict and all things to do with this. I mean, it sounds a bit complicated, or like, I don't know, like what does that even mean, I guess. But I don't know, we just kind of want to talk about arguing and like the kinds of ways people argue and things that we've encountered in arguing and like the way we argue and things like that, because we just thought it'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, we were gonna make this episode about caring as a concept, but it got a bit too conceptual, so we were like it was a bit philosophical. So this is the next best thing. First, we're gonna start with segment.
Oh yeah, of course.
So,
of course,
how could we forget? First, we asked, what are you like in an argument, to our Instagram followers. Go follow us at Sextras Podcast if you haven't already.
Yeah, so we asked, what are you like in an argument? Sorry, just to reiterate the question. And first answer, a winner.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there shouldn't really be that approach, but we'll get into that. We are going to break it down a bit more, psychoanalyze this person.
But I mean, ultimately that is what you want to be, a winner.
I feel like it's okay to think that secretly, but I don't think anyone should admit that that's why they're arguing.
I mean, not why, but ultimately that is what you wanna win at the end.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's complicated because if it's like trivial things, then yeah, you want to be right. Like, who doesn't want to be right? You'll argue your point. But if it's like a problem with the relationship that you're arguing about, do you want to be the winner? Not really. Like, it's about meeting in the middle.
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Okay, the next one. Raising my voice, but in a relationship, I don't argue. Okay, interesting again. I feel like this has its faults as well. This is a very, controversial issue in arguing, I feel, because, well, obviously we'll get into it later, but I personally raise my voice. And that's just me expressing my anger. But I know a lot of people don't like that and they think it's super aggressive. And I do think you have to be wary of that. But again, it's just how I'm expressing my anger. So I can't really, I'm not going to throw something at them or hit them. I'm just going to raise my voice.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think also it's kind of interesting that that they were I raise my voice, but in a relationship I don't argue, kind of like
Yeah.
implying like there's like with different people you argue differently. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Or
that's
like
true.
you avoid conflict, I don't know, for instance, like maybe in a romantic relationship rather than in like your family or your friends, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't really argue with anyone except in a romantic relationship. That's a whole attachment style thing that is for another conversation, I feel.
Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying about the raising your voice. I think obviously like anger has to be expressed in some kind of way, and it tends to be in that. I think sometimes it can go a bit too far, but I do get where I don't know, I don't think that it can be that it's problematic all the time. I think that, you know, everything in excess is bad, but
yeah, like if you're
raising your
raising your
voice a
voice
bit.
about everything, then it's like a bit unnecessary. But you know, if it is an argument and you are angry, I think it's just like a natural expression of that anger. And like I'm not gonna like stand there and scream like ah, but like yeah, I just get heated, and then that's how you express it. And I know that some people are like for example, my ex really didn't like that I raised my voice because of his like past experience with arguing in relationships, and that it just like would antagonize. It would be like a cycle where they'd like antagonize each other, not to like expose his relationship history, but you know what I mean. And yeah, I can get that it's like triggering in that way, and it can be super toxic, but I also am really bad at like saying how I feel. So then when I do take that leap to say how I feel, then I feel like if I'm not being heard, then I will shout, because that's like a way for me to be heard.
Yeah.
Which is
No, I
obviously
get what you're
not
saying.
what I want to be at. Like that's not the level I want to be at, because you want to always be heard. But if that's where you get pushed to, then yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Not to go back to the like with different people you argue differently, but I don't know, just kind of thinking like this whole like shouting and stuff. I only really see myself doing that with like I would never do that with a boyfriend, I don't think, or like with someone that I'm dating or in a relationship with. But like,
What,
and I think
shouting?
yeah, and I think I don't know, I think that like that it's not everyone, because I know not everyone is like that. But what the person was saying is like that they don't, we missed a bit. I'll just add the second bit they were saying, but in a relationship I don't argue, I just cry and have a really calm talk.
Okay.
So as in like I feel like it is kind of still arguing, because like that's kind of how I see it as well. Like we are arguing and we are like discussing something, but I think when you say arguing, you think about like having a fight and like you're screaming at each other. When I think like in relationships a lot of the time, or even not in relationships, like arguing sometimes can look like just like a calm sad conversation, you know.
Yeah, I get you, but I also think that it comes down to attachment styles.
Yeah.
And also not to like me and Maria realized recently that like we kind of approach planning the podcast episodes like how we would plan an essay. And because our A-level English teacher told us like you can get away with anything in an essay as long as you define the concepts. Every time we're like talking about something, I'm like, okay, we need to define the concept. So in that light, I feel like we should define what arguing is. Because for me, arguing is like just conflict. Like it's not necessarily like you're shouting, but like things are being thrown. It's literally just like there's a disagreement and there's conflict and you're trying to work through it, whether that's through like crying and having a conversation, or like I don't think even an argument necessarily has to be two people involved. Like if that makes sense. Like I think if you feel like there's something wrong and there's like conflict and you're thinking about it, that whether consciously or unconsciously will affect how you then treat the other person, and then the other person can recognize that the dynamic's off. So then it's like, are we in an argument? Like there's conflict. Like I do think conflict and arguing is different, but I still think they're like very linked.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you're seeing arguing as more of a like a state kind of thing.
Yeah,
almost
a state.
Like okay, yeah,
rather
I get
than
what
like
you're
a
saying.
verb.
I get what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna talk about it in both ways.
Yeah.
Like, we'll kind of point to what we're saying. It is kind of interesting how with romantic partners, or I don't know, sometimes in certain fights, you kind of tend to go a bit more like emotional. And then in certain fights, it's more like, I guess it's just like depending on where it's like the arguing state coming from, like from anger or from like insecurity or from hurt, like, yeah.
It is really interesting because the way that I would argue, I mean, I don't really argue with my mom ever. Like, maybe we'll have like a tiny little disagreement and it will last like 2 seconds. One of us will make a mean comment and then an hour later it's fine. But I feel like that's just natural to like family dynamics. Whereas with people you're dating, because the stakes are so high, then that's why it's like so intense and there's all these different states of arguing. Ugh, I don't know, I fucking hate arguing. I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, wow, thank God I'm not in a relationship. I hate arguing.
Yeah, it's so shit.
Okay, well, let's get more into that concept later. What's the next one?
The next one is I cry.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of going back to the crying.
Again, like a natural response, I feel. My ex would cry a lot if we were arguing or we were having a disagreement about something, or even if there was just like negative energy, you know. Whereas I raised my voice, and I was thinking, I like obviously wouldn't get mad at him for crying, but he would get mad at me for raising my voice. But it's like those are just very automatic.
True. I get,
like visceral responses to the same problem. And I feel like it's easy to look at both raising your voice and crying as like an annoying response to a disagreement, like from the other side, which again we are going to get into later, like how we view other people when we're arguing. So yeah, I feel like we should just normalize whatever's your natural response is fine.
But I guess like, I don't know, shouting and raising your voice is more like directed at you, whereas like you could argue that crying isn't. Like, it's not personally attacking you, you know, it has nothing, like, not that it has nothing to do with you, because I guess it's kind of personally attacking you in a manipulative, like, if it has potential for doing so in a manipulative way.
Like, I was like, am I just exposing my, like, emotional baggage by saying that I feel like crying can be a very personal
I get what
attack.
you mean. Yeah.
But it's more like in a way that makes them the victim, so making them look like the ones who are right and you're the one who's wrong.
Yeah, no, I do get what you mean, but
because you made them cry, so you're the evil one. And then once they cry, you can't do anything.
Yeah, that's true. But equally, like, the shouting immediately makes you the evil one, you know? Crying makes you the victim, shouting makes you the evil one immediately. Even though that you could argue that they're just, like, natural responses to conflict.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna, like, shout at someone, like, go out of my way to be like, now I'm gonna shout at you. Like, it is just very much, you annoy me, I'm like, oh my god! Like, that's just how I respond straight away, rather than it's, like, premeditated. But I do get that both can be used in, like, a premeditated or, like, manipulative way to make people feel worse in the situation, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one for this bit of the segment is, I think this person is trying to say what they're like in an argument is they develop new thoughts, which I am taking to mean, like, they try to see the other person's perspective and, like, see both sides. Which, again, we will get into is a key component of what we have identified as an arguing style.
Yes, this is our thesis for argument styles, guys, and we're gonna publish our psychological analysis of relationships in the next psychology journal.
Yeah. I feel like we need to have a disclaimer at the start of our episodes being like, we may be presenting our opinion as fact. Please don't take this to mean we are experts.
We're not professional. Please don't take
us at fucking 11 o'clock at night on FaceTime. Like, okay, what are the arguing styles?
Okay, should we move on to our second question?
Yeah.
Which is, what are your argument pet peeves, i.e. things you don't like that people do in arguments?
Okay.
So the first answer is people who literally don't listen and keep arguing for the sake of being right.
Yeah.
So annoying.
I think this might be the worst kind of arguer.
Oh my god, it's
not
so...
to
It happens all the time. Like, at least maybe I think it happens all the time because, like, I'm thinking of people in my life that do it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, a key component of arguing, I feel, is what are you trying to achieve in the argument, and like, what is the end goal?
Mm.
And to me, it should always be like compromise or like meeting in the middle, which I know might seem antithetical to the thing I said about me raising my voice, but I don't think I'm not like talking over them. Like, I will still listen to their perspective, and I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to listen to what you say, leave me alone. I'm like just expressing how I feel, and then when they say how they feel, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but you know, when you're like arguing with someone or whatever, and I don't know if it's whether they just genuinely believe they're right and you genuinely know that they're not, or like whether they are just arguing even though they know they're wrong, you know what I mean? Like, but you know that no matter what you say, it's like, it doesn't matter because they just decided that that's the way it is, and it's like so there's no point in the conversation, and it's almost like they basically just want to keep talking about their point of view.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so fucking frustrating. I'm just like, literally shut up. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, there's just not even any point. I wouldn't engage with them at that point. Like, if I ever enter into an argument and I'm like, I know you've already decided, or even any conversation, like just a casual conversation, and I'm like, I know you've already decided on what you think, then I'm like, why am I even here? Like, there's literally no point in me being here. I think it's like goes the same way for like political stances and stuff. Like, you can have a conversation with people and like try and convince them otherwise, but if you start the conversation with them and you're like, I know for a fact you've already made up your mind and like it's not going to change, what is the point in you even trying to convince them otherwise? Like, you're not going to be the exception to that. You get what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of applicable. Some political theory thrown in the mix of our thesis.
Okay, next one.
When they act like you're dumb or act really patronising.
Ugh.
When they're like, oh, let me explain it to you. What? No.
Yeah. Not to expose my boyfriend, but I feel like he can do this so much, and like...
Well, yeah, he's a man.
So true. But it's so fucking annoying. It's just like, why are you acting like my feelings are really dumb, or like I shouldn't be saying what I'm saying or feeling the way I'm feeling because it's like silly or petty or whatever. I don't know, I feel like I get that so much, and I feel like so much is in my head, but I feel like that comes from the way that you argue with people. Like, I think if people show you that that's kind of like what they're gonna do and make you feel, then it's like, then you don't want to bring those things up, and then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost kind of thing. Yeah, a cycle. I
just hate patronizing people in general.
I hate it.
And it's like, I do kind of get how it can get to that point in an argument, because as we will get into again later, like, sometimes you do just genuinely think you're right, and like you can rationalize everything, but to the other person they're like very much conflicted and they have all these feelings, and you might have feelings too. That's not what I'm saying. Like, one person is completely just like emotionless, but yeah, like you can rationalize everything away, whereas they feel very vulnerable and emotional. And you can think in your head, oh, but you know, I don't get why they're sad, and it can be hard for you to like empathize with them in that moment, but that's never an excuse to like be like, oh, you're crying, or like, why are you crying? That's so, I mean, I'm not saying that's like what people do necessarily, I'm just exaggerating, like, that's so stupid that you feel that way, or like, oh no, but it's not like that, because it's like, yeah, that's how they feel in that moment. You're not, like, who are you to tell them that they shouldn't feel that way, because they're already feeling that way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Or even when, like, I don't know, you'll be having an argument and they'll just be like, oh, like, are you dumb? Like, that's obviously not, you know what I mean? And it's like, that can happen like all the time. And like, I mean, it sounds like out of context, it sounds really like mean, but people say that all the time, you know, when you're like having arguments about things. And like that, I feel like that shit hits a bit hard. I feel like there's no need to like stop being like, oh, you're so dumb, like, are you dumb, kind of thing. It's like, okay, I just, you know, I made a mistake. Or not even, like, when you're not even being dumb, they're the ones that are being dumb. It's so annoying. You just want to punch them in the face. Because also it's like when people start throwing that kind of shit, it's like when they just like don't have anything else to say and you're like, oh, I just want to hit you.
Yeah, that's true. Once me and my ex had an argument about tablespoons and he was like, are you dumb? Like, that's not a tablespoon. And I was like, I know for a fact that this is a tablespoon. This is a dessert spoon. And you're wrong. It was such a stupid argument, and it just got so unnecessarily hostile about tablespoons.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was gonna say my biggest pet peeve, not to jump the gun or anything, is name calling in arguments. I hate that, and I feel like that goes with being dumb. When people are like, you're being stupid, or like, that's really, like, you're mean, you're a horrible person. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I get what you mean.
Yeah. So, again, patronising. Anyway, the next one.
Okay, when they're the mean kind of stubborn. What's the mean kind of stubborn?
Yeah, what is the mean kind of stubborn? We need a definition.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. I guess this kind of comes with also like when you just think you're right, so then you just start like basically disregarding, like, I don't know, when you start being kind of nasty about it, you know what I mean?
Like lashing out.
Yeah, or like not even lashing out, when you're just kind of like, you're so stubborn that you're like, no, like, stop, you're just being dumb, like, no, you just don't want to see it that way, so then it starts to be a bit nasty.
Yeah, no, I get what she means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
The silent treatment. Yeah, fuck that. I hate. I also hate. I again understand it's a natural response. I hate when people just like walk away in the middle of an argument. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, how is that gonna help the situation? I'm already angry at you.
Yeah. I feel like that hasn't really happened to me in real life, I don't think.
That's definitely happened to me.
Yeah, nah.
And the silent treatment too.
Yeah, the silent treatment, yeah, for sure. I feel like I like to use that one myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, not the silent treatment per se, but I don't know, I'll get a bit like, I'll just get quiet and like clearly annoyed and like won't be talking to them and clearly be acting like upset. So it's a bit of the silent treatment, but it's not fully. If someone's like, oh, Maria, and I'll be like, Maria, are you okay? I'll be like, yeah.
That's part of your attachment style.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I was just reading about that.
Yeah, it's because, I don't know, I think I find it hard to like bring things up. Yeah. I just like don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I also find it hard to bring things up, but like in a different way. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, true.
But I guess it's all like rooted in insecurity there.
Oh, the silent treatment is like it's like the worst for me though, like, because I can't deal with like not dealing with conflict. I just need to get it sorted, because otherwise it's like gonna consume my mind. So if it's like the silent treatment, or it kind of like just not wanting to address it or not wanting to talk about it, like that actually gives me like so much anxiety, and like I hate it. It's the worst, but I do it all the time. I would just fucking hate it if it was the other way around.
You know what I hate is when people are like, I don't want to talk about this now. I also do that.
Yeah.
I'm literally like an avoidant. So that is like the number one characteristic. But it's like, who are you to fucking decide if we talk about this now? I want to talk about it now. Yeah. Again, I guess it's like just thinking you're like in the right and like they're in the wrong for bringing it up. And it's like also thinking that you can rationalize keeping your feelings down for that like moment and waiting to bring it up in a later moment.
Yeah.
Which we know not everyone can do, and I can't do that. And even though I am sometimes like, oh, I don't want to talk about this now, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone said loud speaking or shouting and repeating the same part over and over.
Lots of
like saying
why is that bad?
Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking, like maybe it's just like out of a like impatience thing, or like you don't want them to show no weakness. Maybe they meant it as like what they're like, because I see it from like saying a lot because you're kind of nervous, and then like repeating yourself a lot because you're nervous. And
I get what they mean with repeating yourself, because you know when you're angry you keep saying the same thing because you feel like they haven't actually taken it in, so you keep being like, and this, even though you've already said it. My ex used to get so annoyed at me for that, because I'd be like, yeah, but you did this, and then I would just repeat it again in a different way, and he'd be like, you literally just said that, can you stop saying that, like we're not going over this in circles. And I'm like, yeah, but because I feel like he hasn't like absorbed it fully.
Yeah, no, I do get what you're saying. Also, like I'm kind of thinking from the perspective of like the person that's like doing the kind of shouting. My flatmate and her boyfriend like argue all the time, and he will always like just be repeating himself like, oh, you never listen to me, see, I always tell you, you never listen to me. And he'll always be like kind of repeating the same like lines of like why he's mad or like whatever, even though when it's like already kind of been gone through or whatever. So yeah, I do get what you mean. That I hate that shit. I would hate that shit.
What, repeating?
Yeah, but in like a okay, but I've already apologized for this, and like we've already gone over this, like I'm sorry, like why are you still getting mad at me for this? Or like you've made that point, like I don't need to be reminded, you know, you don't need to keep saying it.
Yeah, but sometimes sorry like isn't enough, like because sometimes the people that are saying sorry feel like they're like removed from the problem because they've like apologized, and in their mind it's like this has been resolved, but the person who like has the problem is like, this is still a problem.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
I do get
that
what you mean.
wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so should we say what we're like in arguments? Should we do the big review?
Go on. What are you like in an argument?
I mean, I have kind of already said I shout, but I feel like I made good progress on shouting in my last relationship, because I can be very easily irritated. Also taking into account that I was having a lot of hormonal problems. That really didn't help. And that made me very easily irritable. However, apart from that, I think I definitely got better in my last relationship in like considering the other person's side and trying to like understand their perspective, but also being better at like being more assertive about my point in like a better way. Like communicating it in a better way.
I see.
Because I am very much of like I can rationalize this, so it's stupid that you have reacted this way.
I see, yeah.
Because I'm avoidant, so yeah. But I think I've made good progress in that area.
Okay.
That's good. You?
What am I like? Well, yeah, like I said, I feel like the way I deal with conflict is like things upset me, or like make me feel some type of way. And I'm not really like, even though I as I've been saying, like I do the whole silent treatment thing, like in a way I am really passive aggressive and I don't want to bring it up, but I'm also one of those people that, like, if you've upset me or if like I'm upset at you or angry, like you will know, because I can't really keep it in. Like I can't just like pretend like everything's fine kind of thing.
Yeah.
So even though I like tend to not want to bring things up, I'll start, like, as I said, acting like clearly I'm upset about something and like clearly I'm pissed off. And you know, it's like the classic, like the classic, like going to like the very far corner of the bed and like turning away from them, or like, you know, just like little passive aggressive things showing that I'm not happy with the outcome of whatever's happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like it can be a little bit manipulative. I think I've gotten a lot better at this over the years, you know. I think with in my first relationship, it took quite an extreme turn. Like, you know, like full on sobbing if we can't like hang out one day of the week, you know, and this kind of emotional reaction. But I don't know, I think I've gotten better at it, but I still do it a little bit, like just sneaky little making them feel a bit bad, you know, worse than they probably should be feeling about them not wanting to do this one thing, or you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Or like me getting upset. I don't know. I feel like I'm also not, I am quite a stubborn person, but I'm also like, I feel like I'm good at admitting when I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like
same.
Maybe not. Maybe people wouldn't agree with me, but I genuinely feel like I do always admit when I know I'm wrong. And like,
I think you're good.
I am one to apologize. Like, I really don't. I'm not one to not want to apologize. I don't really have a problem with apologizing. I tend to like over apologize, if I'm being quite honest, because like I don't like conflict, so I just want to get it over and done with, kind of thing. I think even sometimes when I don't feel sorry, I'll be like, I'm sorry. But yeah, I feel like I always take kind of the beta approach. Like, I'll come into arguments. We can get into a bit later as well, but I'll come into an argument, think like I'll be so sure of how I feel and like why something's upset me, like what I'm gonna say, what, like, you know what I mean, like all these things. I'll talk through it, I'll hype myself up. I know that I'm right, and like I shouldn't feel bad for like being upset about these things or whatever, or bad for bringing it up, all these things. And then it comes to the fucking argument or conversation, and then I literally find myself being like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how it always happens, but I literally always end up apologizing when I'm bringing something up that's upset me.
Well, yeah.
So that's my argument style. I'd say it's like submissive pushover with a little bit of like trying to manipulate you in some kind of way, because that's the only thing that I feel like I can do, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that don't shout manipulate.
I mean,
and then you can have a bit of both
or
too.
there's
But
like secure people who like can actually get shit done without like wrecking havoc in a relationship. No, yeah, I think the way that I bring things up is very harsh. You know how when you hear relationship coaches talking and it's like, the compassion you bring to a relationship, you should always say something in a calm tone and say, I recognize that you were trying to do this, but this is how you made me feel. I'm like, you did this. Like, I just blurt it out because, well, it will take me a while to get to that point, first of all. Like, sometimes I will literally go into a conversation with like a little bullet point of like, this is what I need to say, because otherwise I will like black out and forget everything I have to say. So I have that to like remind myself, because otherwise I will just avoid the problem at all costs, and having it written down like helps me. So I'll use that and then like go into it and be like, I have to say it. Okay, you're gonna say it. 3, 2, 1, say it. And then I'm like, yeah, you did this. So yeah, and then I also have been told I am not very good at apologizing. However, I also have a problem with your style of like apologizing too much, because then I feel like it detracts from the actual apology, like when you're actually sorry. So I'm very much of the opinion of like, I am not gonna apologize for something I'm not sorry for.
Yeah.
Like, I'll apologize if you're upset, and like I will try to comfort you if I've upset you, but I'm not going to apologize for doing the actual thing, which might be flawed. And it does sound kind of fucked up now that I'm saying it.
Yeah.
But I hate when people like just apologize loads in an argument, but at the expense of like it seeming like they're not actually taking into account what you're saying.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying, and I do agree that it can a lot of the time kind of just be like apologizing for the sake of it, and then it removes the weight from the other, like the real apology or whatever. But I think also when I'm doing it, it doesn't necessarily mean like, it doesn't necessarily feel like I'm not actually sorry in the moment. Like I think the I'm sorry a lot of the time comes from like, I'm sorry I'm making you feel bad.
Yeah.
Even though I think that that's wrong. Like, you shouldn't be apologizing for making someone feel bad because you're telling them about a way that they made you feel bad.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's flawed in itself, but I don't think it comes from like apologizing for no reason. It's just like, I do feel sorry. Yeah. It's just about maybe like reworking what I should feel sorry for and not, you know, and like being a bit stronger in those moments.
Yeah. And I do think that, like, I should concede more and say sorry because I know that that means something to other people. Whereas to me, I would rather have, like, an action than, like, sorry doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I would rather you, like, show me that you're sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's also what I mean by I'm good at saying sorry and, like, admitting when I'm wrong. It's like, I'll say it, but also, like, I think the words are nothing. Like, I literally couldn't give a shit. I was talking to my mum about this yesterday, how like I don't have time for excuses. Like, I literally can't be fucked with excuses anymore. It's like, if you can't do it, if you don't want to do it, if you didn't do it, just say you didn't fucking do it, or you did. Like, I don't need to know this and this reasons why. Like, just shut up.
Yeah, I fucking hate that. I think that's a male thing though. I mean, not just a male thing, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly a male thing.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think anything that dilutes the actual, like, solution of the argument makes everything so much worse. Like, it makes the whole argument kind of void in that moment. If you're, like, you go through the whole argument, you reach a solution, and then they're like, oh, I only did it because of this, or, like, oh, I'm sorry, but then they don't follow through on, like, changing anything after they've said sorry.
Fuck, like, these sorries with no action. Yeah, I hate that.
I'm sick of that. Like, yeah.
I mean, I say that. My boyfriend says sorry all the time for shit he does then the next day.
Yeah, but I feel like you do just reach a point that it's like your breaking point eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think it's like a pick your battle sort of thing. Like, I think certain things, it's like, okay, this argument happened and there was like an I'm sorry moment, and then you do it again and that's kind of like, right, I can't. But then there's other things that it's like, they're smaller and it's like, yeah, okay, am I going to keep having this argument? Like, does this really matter that much? You know?
Yeah, so then maybe there are like different topics of argument as well, because you know, when someone says something and it's literally just a one-time thing and it really hurts and you have to be like, this really hurt me, and they're like, oh fuck, I didn't mean that, and it's like, yeah, whatever, that's fine, I know you're not going to do it again. Whereas something that it's like a repeated thing in your relationship that like always comes up and you're always having to be like, oh, can you not do that? And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. 2 days later they do it again. Yeah. That's like the worst kind of argument. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is like also arguments sort of like, I feel like my boyfriend and I have had the same arguments throughout our whole relationship. Yeah. But it kind of has turned into a different sort of argument. You know, we kind of reach a sort of middle, and then we have to reach a middle from that middle, and then like, you know, it just kind of keeps evolving, and it's like an ongoing argument, but also it's a very different argument every time, and like in different ways, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. Well, should we get into like the different aspects of arguing that we identified? I mean, we kind of have like pinpointed them in talking through these things, but well, firstly, I do just want to say, like, we're not just talking about this for the sake of it. I feel like I was kind of thinking about what the point of us talking about this is while we were talking about it, and I was like, well, self-reflection, like, it's important to know what kind of arguer you are, because, you know, we did that episode that was like, am I difficult to love? And I feel like it's good to know how you are in an argument, because in the moment you can just get so swept up in it and then not want to think about it afterwards. But actually arguments are like the thing that will make or break your relationship ultimately. So.
Yeah, really early on when we started the podcast, we kind of wanted to do this episode about arguing, and it kind of, one of the things that we said was like, I feel like the way you argue is really important, because it can, first of all, from a point of view that we tend to like blame people all the time for things that happen, you know, like everything you want to blame other people, you don't want to blame yourself. But like arguing is a two people thing, like with the sex thing, how we always say like two people can have bad sex with each other, but it doesn't mean that you are necessarily bad at sex, you know. It's it takes two people. So I think that if the way that you argue is just completely clashing with the way that the person you're with argues, and you kind of don't even know, so you think that it's all their fault, but really like you're exacerbating like whatever they're doing, and vice versa, and like I don't know, it just becomes this like very cyclical thing, and like there's nothing, like I feel like only good can come from knowing more and more about yourself, and arguing is like a huge part of relationships, like
because you have to argue.
Yeah, and it can make or break, like if you can handle conflict well and like communicate and kind of find ways to work with each other and the way that each of you argue, then that will obviously help in contrast to like just being really volatile and like shouting all the time, or like I don't know, not shouting, just like arguing all the time, or like never being able to sort of sort through conflict because you just don't know that it's like the way you're arguing is not being like productive, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's important to have compassion for like how you respond to conflict and how your partner responds to conflict, because as I was saying, I think my ex, like when we would argue, he would latch onto this idea that I shout at him, and that would be like, can you stop shouting at me? But then when I kind of explained, but this is like my natural response to conflict, like I'm just expressing how I feel, and this tone of voice is like the way that I'm expressing it, for lack of a better way of expressing it, then I think that kind of allowed him to have more compassion for that being the way that I argue. And also having that compassion can help you recognize when something might like become an argument, because you start to recognize all these patterns, and if you don't put like names or feelings or tones of voices or words to those patterns, then it's like, how are you ever really gonna change? You can't. So I think it's just really important. But we've kind of identified these aspects of arguing. There's again like 3 stages, in the same way as like the breakup process episode. Like the before the argument, how do you register something, and how do you bring something up? How does it become a problem in your mind, and what do you class as like important enough to not start an argument about, but like bring up, and then it will eventually become an argument? Then how do you actually bring it up?
And like what do you do during the argument, like how are you communicating sort of the things, like how are you reacting, that kind of thing.
And then what do you do after the argument? Like how do you move on or not move on, or treat the other person after the argument? I guess we didn't really touch on that. I think after the argument it takes me a while to cool off, and I need a bit of space, and then I'm good after that. Like I literally just need like 5 minutes to cool off. And if you like interrupt those 5 minutes, it will make me more angry, and then it will take me longer to cool off.
I see what you mean. I think I might be the same, because I really don't, I think I can move on from things like quite easily, like I can nip it in the bud and then just move on kind of thing. But I think like the amount of times that me and my boyfriend had a fight, and then he'll just be like 5 minutes later, like nothing has been resolved, literally nothing has been resolved, and it'll be like 5 minutes later and he'll be like, oh, what's wrong, like are you like, what's wrong, are you still upset? I'm like, well, yes, nothing changed, like what the fuck do you mean? So I feel like I can like like right after I can be a little bit, I don't know, I can like be a little bit stingy, I guess. I don't know how to put it. Yeah, it's a bit sore. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But then like, as in, it's over in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you know what I mean? Like it does go away quickly. I remember like my ex, it was kind of like a thing because I would recover from conflict really quick. Like I'd be able to move on and want to move on and not want to be like still upset about whatever happened. But she would still be upset, and then that would be like just really kind of orcs and like not nice.
Yeah, my ex would always like want a hug during the argument because that was like what calmed him down. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking hug you right now. Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm mad at you. I'm not going to hug you to reassure you that everything's fine, you piece of shit. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't say that. So, yeah. Okay, so those are the, like, kind of stages. And then we'll break down each stage. So, I guess, as we said, bringing something up, do you kind of cajole them into this argument? You're like... I know that we have spoken about this before, and I know you have no bad intentions, and I love you, but you hurt me. I would say that's like secure attachment style, like who the fuck does that? And then, as you were saying, you like let it simmer for a while and act like everything's fine, act like clearly everything's not fine, but you say everything's fine, so it's like mixed messages.
Yeah.
Or do you like avoid the problem as much as possible, in my case, until it's like the very last moment you can keep it inside, and then you like explode. Well, not explode, but like have to get it out, and then you shout. So those are like the main ways, I would say. And then during the argument, this is like the main part, the main body of the thesis. Like, there's so many ways that we identified.
Yeah. Are you sort of like going into it like, I'm right and I need to like get them to apologize, or like, yeah, I'm right, they're wrong, we need to like I need to get them to my side kind of thing? Do you go into it being like, there's this problem, like, let's see if we can meet somewhere in the middle? Do you tend to sort of like give up really easily kind of thing, like just let them kind of have it?
Yeah, or are you upset but you're trying to understand their perspective and where they were coming from when they hurt you?
I feel like a lot comes to attachment styles and stuff.
I think the whole thing is attachment styles. Like, I didn't really think that when we started planning the episode, but then before we started recording, I was like reading about it, and now I'm like, it's in my head, and I'm realizing more and more how everything is about attachment styles, which makes sense if you think about it, because attachment styles obviously come from the way you were raised, and then the way you would like fight with your parents. And now that I'm thinking about it, like my mum would always just like, not always, sorry to my mum, I'm not trying to make you sound bad, but obviously we would argue when I was younger, or like she would get mad at me, and she would always say that I would just stand there and like not really say anything, like I would just listen to her arguing. So now I'm like, I don't want to be an inconvenience and bring things up, so I'm like, avoid it until I'm like, oh, I have to bring something up, and then I shout it, which just is like a very clear correlation if you think about it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And obviously it's not just that, it's like how you argue with someone as well that matters. But
well, yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking like, I feel like a lot of the ways that I act in arguments come from fear. Like, I'm just trying to like protect myself against them like not wanting to be with me anymore, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I never get too angry, or like it's all like out of coming from thinking that they don't love me enough, you know?
You're scared that they're like gonna break up with you, or like,
I don't know, I think it's like I'm scared that like I'm like too hard to love. Yeah, it's more that kind of feeling, I think. Like, it's always, I think it always comes down to thinking there's something wrong with me. Yeah. Like, I feel like I never blame other people. It always comes down to me. And I think, like, arguments that I bring up, because me and my boyfriend also have this joke that, like, he's never gotten mad, like, he never gets mad at me. He's never even, like, started an argument ever. Like, whenever we have any kind of disagreement, any kind of anything, it's something that I'm bringing up. Yeah. You know?
That's interesting. Like, surely he must get annoyed at you. He's
Like,
not like a robot.
no, but this is the thing. Like, anytime we've had like serious chats or serious arguments, I've brought it up. Like, he's never brought something to the table. The only times that he's ever kind of like, I'd say, started or like been angry at me or whatever, it's just like an annoyance kind of thing, rather than like him actually being angry or upset.
Your boyfriend is such a mystery to me because I can't decide if he's like the most avoidant person I've ever met, like even more avoidant than me. Because I kind of recognize like some of the way that I act and like how you describe him to me, or he's just super secure.
No, I just genuinely don't think he ever gets mad. Like I'm, like, which makes no sense because I'm so like, okay, I don't get my narrative because my narrative is, oh, I'm so hard to love, but he never has any problems with me, but I have problems with him all the time. Yet my narrative of the situation is, oh, I love him so much and he doesn't love me. Even though I'm constantly like bringing shit up that I'm like, you did this and this and this wrong. You know?
Yeah, so then it is kind of like, it's like a blaming war, you know?
Well, I think also, like, to go back to the whole attachment style thing, I think, and maybe it's not that much with attachment style, it's more like a codependency issue kind of thing. But I think also because I kind of put so much of my mood and like happiness and whatever on that person, it's like, I think that's why then I'll tend to like have more things to be upset about than him, I guess, because it's like his actions really affect me, like everything he does really affects me, whereas the stuff that I do doesn't really affect him in the same way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about attachment styles, is I feel like it's not about him really, it's more about you.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it makes so much more sense.
Yeah. You were saying how you were like working on kind of these bad arguing habits and working more towards like a better arguing style or whatever, which I guess is like listen to the other person's point of view, like be aware of their feelings of the situation and like how that comes into play, all those things. But do you have any sort of like, I don't know, things that you can point to kind of make those changes or move towards that?
Something that was just like a revelation that is very simple is that if, for example, you're an avoidant and you're dating an anxious, or you're both just insecurely attached. Also, just side note for anyone who is really confused about attachment styles and what the fuck we're talking about, go online and look up attachment styles, or go to the personal development school and do their attachment style quiz and find out what attachment style you are. This isn't sponsored by them, but if you guys want to sponsor us, we'd love that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. That was like a little ad break. Yeah, if you're both insecurely attached, just literally not reacting when they do something and you recognize that that's them acting in their like attachment style, and that has been like a trigger to them, because that's when the whole cycle of like this really not bad arguing, but it's just not productive arguing starts. So I just try to not react. And also that is kind of problematic for me because, as I said, I'm avoidant. So that is really hard for me to like manage in a way that I don't just completely zone out of the argument altogether or like dissociate and I don't remember what the fuck is going on, and then I feel like everything's my fault because I've like made it about me. Or like, and then they think that I'm like ignoring them. So literally just trying to stay calm, because you can feel like the anger rising in you and you can feel yourself trying to speak when someone else is expressing their feelings, and just not thinking that it's like an attack on you, and just recognizing everyone makes mistakes. And I know that's so much easier said than done, but like yeah, I think just if someone would bring something up, I would just really try to like be as compassionate as possible to them. Also recognize that they can be wrong too. Like there's not necessarily a right and wrong just because the person bringing it up is upset. You know, that doesn't make them right, and that doesn't make you wrong. You can kind of try to explain your point of view without making a million excuses if you're the one that upset them, and then without like invalidating their feelings as well, you know, like you have to take into account that that's how they feel, but also like reassure them at the same time. I don't know, it's really hard because I hate words of assurance, like, and like affirmations, like, oh, you're doing great, or like like during an argument I just can't fucking hack that because it just seems so insincere to me.
Yeah.
Whereas the person that I was dating, that was like what would help him. And it's like, okay, well, how can I kind of do that in a way that feels to me like I actually mean it, and that will also like calm him down. So it's like the compromise between our two arguing styles, you know, because it's like, obviously I don't want to push them away during an argument because they think I'm being evil, and then that's not productive to the argument either.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really helpful in any way what I just said, but yeah, I would say just like approaching everything with at least the tiniest bit of compassion.
Yeah.
And showing the other person that you recognize their perspective. Yeah, and just like learn about your attachment styles. Please.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I only really learned about mine towards the end, and then that was like, oh wow, this like affects so much.
True. Yeah, so true.
Yeah. What about you? How do you, like, what's your advice? I don't know. I don't want to like psychoanalyze you or like speak for you. But I think for you, what I recognize, and you've said this to me as well, like when you have a problem, you can express it to me perfectly well and it makes so much sense to me. And I'm like, that's completely valid. But then when it comes to you, like, even thinking about bringing it up with your boyfriend, you make all these excuses, like, for him, and you're like, oh, no, but I'm in the wrong.
Yeah. And this is, okay, and like, I don't know, I think this has been 2 years of mind games that I've played with myself to get to this stage, to be fair. Like, and again, I'm doing it again. Like, I'm just saying that it's all on me, even though I do think it's on him. It's like all these patterns that we've like replayed over and over and over that make me think that I can't bring this up.
Yeah.
But something that has helped me is in this like pretending that nothing's wrong, and like you kind of just being passive aggressive and stuff, and kind of not knowing how to bring it up. So you basically are just waiting for them to be like, what's wrong so many times that it's like, I don't know, it's like almost gaining the courage but also finding the words, I guess.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I think what I tend to do is like, once I try, and then if I can't get my point across in the way that I wanted to, I'll kind of give up and then let it go, but still be upset about it, and kind of like that will just stay with me all day and I won't be able to move on. So I don't know, something that I found has helped is kind of just like give yourself a little bit of patience. Like if you don't get it right the first time, and if you feel like you didn't say what you wanted to say, like instead of just leaving it and being like, oh, I feel like I didn't really say what I wanted to say, but like now I can't say it, it's over now, kind of thing. It's like, just let yourself actually say what you want to say, and like give yourself time to do that. You don't have to like get the perfect words out first of all, and kind of like ask for that space in a way. Like, I don't know, I think a lot of the time I feel pressured if I don't get it right, and then he's like, I don't know, I feel belittled or whatever, then I'll give it up. But it's like, don't give it up, just like keep talking about it until you actually feel fine about it, rather than just leaving it and pretending like you're fine about it. I don't know, this whole pretending I'm fine about things is like, I'm trying to get rid of that because I feel like it just adds so much annoyingness to my life, and I just feel so petty and like annoying when I do it.
Yeah, I feel like there's this whole rhetoric around like if you bring an issue up more than once, it's like nagging, or just being annoying. I feel like a lot of arguments in relationships come from a root cause. So, of course, you're going to keep bringing things up, like, until it gets solved. And for different people, it's solved at different times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I completely get what you're saying. Okay. This is one last issue that I know we are, like, divided on. Is, you already kind of touched on it when you said that you can't like not bring things up because it will like eat at you.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm very much like, oh, I'll sleep on it, I'll weigh it out and see if this is an issue that's like worth me bringing up before I bring it up. So I feel like that is a big part of it as well. Like, I don't know, I like it's both kind of rooted in insecurity in a way. But they're both kind of like, these are not valid things to bring up, or like this is not a valid argument. So you're like, oh, I just want to get it out. I don't want this inside me. I don't know if I'm interpreting that right.
Mine's more like, I can't deal with the anxiety of conflict. Like,
okay.
I feel like most of the time my anger is like lesser than my like need for them to like love me and like for things to be okay.
Yeah.
You know? Sorry, but carry on.
Yeah, whereas mine is like, I don't want to cause a massive deal out of nothing. So I would rather just sleep on it, and if I still feel the same way tomorrow, then I'll bring it up, which on its surface does seem like quite a secure way of dealing with it. And I think that's what you have kind of like expressed to me, is like, oh, that could never be me, like I wish that could be me. But actually I feel like it's problematic in itself, because I put things off, and then it's like, yeah, I guess I do exactly what I just said you do, is like invalid, like kind of gaslight myself low-key, like this isn't important enough, or like, yeah, you don't deserve to have that need met right now. I don't know if that's what it is.
No, I do get what you're saying. Like, it's more of a putting it off rather than you being like, let me just take my time with this and like,
yeah.
But I feel like it does also come from a like, let me figure out how I really feel about this. Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of the time, like, I'm just reacting, you know, like, and it's like very in the moment kind of thing. And it's like, if you actually gave me time to think about it, I probably am actually not mad. Like, it's actually fine. But it's just like the initial reaction of like anger or like annoyance or like jealousy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just start talking shit.
That is literally exactly what I was reading about this afternoon. It's like, anxiously attached people can anticipate something like an activating, I can't remember what they called it, like an activating system in their relationship way like in advance of the problem. So they like did this test of a simulation of someone's face making like an angry face, and then it would like decrease into a calm, like neutral expression. And they asked the anxiously attached people to signpost where they thought the angry expression like neutralized, or like they moved out of that angry expression.
Yeah.
And they also reversed it, so like a neutral to angry. And the anxiously attached people always like predicted ahead of when it was gonna be angry, or ahead of when it was going to neutralize, because it's like always rooted in this like you're constantly alert, like,
yeah,
this is a threat. So you're like, oh, I have to say something or act on this because of like the fear of what might happen.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like that. Like, for example, I was literally like just a random evening that I like knew my boyfriend was out or something, but I was like, I decided to stalk his ex, and I was like looking at his story, and then on her story I just see like his best friends, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's kind of like, I need to immediately know like everything that's going on. Yeah. And it's like kind of also reacting out of like a visceral like anger that I'm like, I've not been told about this. I like don't know where you are. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of needing to know that everything's okay immediately.
Yeah. That's kind of an example they gave in the book. Like,
yeah.
That exact example.
Well, yeah, it's always like just kind of like needing to know that everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's just like a reassurance. Yeah.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. Okay, well, this has just been one whole advocacy for attachment style theory. So if you haven't already, go find out your attachment style, because we promise it will change your life. Literally so many people have been like, you're way too obsessed with attachment styles. I'm like, I do not care. It's like the number one piece of knowledge I think that has changed my life.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy.
I think it should be compulsory for everyone to learn.
True, they so should like just teach it in school. Like, why not? You're not hurting.
Yeah, imagine how much better everyone's lives would be. You're like, why is this happening to me? Why is this how I am in every relationship? Why am I completely chill until all of a sudden I like catch feelings and then I'm suddenly this like psycho girlfriend?
So true.
Well, there is a literal reason, and you can find out. Sponsored by Attachment Theory. Anyway, anything else you want to add?
I think advice for anyone that dates someone that is like me, if you're hearing this and your girlfriend, it sounds like your girlfriend or like your boyfriend or your friend or whatever, something that helps is just like keep asking. Like, I know it's so annoying when they're like this whole passive aggressiveness and whatever, but like everything that they're trying to achieve is just confirmation that you care.
Yeah.
And like confirmation that you are like seeing them, understanding them, all of that. So like if you can just do that, that's my advice for dealing with someone like me.
That's good advice. Should I give advice for someone dating an avoidant?
Yeah.
Well, my ex started doing this thing where he would like regularly check in with me and be like, hey, how are you? Like, anything you want to talk about? And I've seen people do that on, like, talk about doing that with their partners on TikTok. They have like weekly check-ins. Like, if there was anything they were like mad at them about in that week or like in that month, then they would have like a designated time to bring it up. And that just sounds like ideal to me. But the only caveat is you have to get the wording very right. Because if someone asks me, how are you? I'm just gonna be like, good. Because I'm avoidant. Like, I'm not gonna be like, good, and this and this and this, and I hate you and you ruined my life. I'm literally just gonna be like, good. Like, you have to word it in a very specific
I get
way.
what you're saying.
So I feel like, yeah, again, it's checking in. Like, just making sure you haven't missed anything and they're not like bottling anything up.
Yeah.
And if like, I think with avoidant or with anxious, if you ever like have a suspicion that someone is upset, like, you know your partner well, so you know what they're like literally just like try and talk to them about it. Because if you feel like something's off, whether that's like the anxious person acting like things are fine when they're clearly not, or the avoidant person just like not ever bringing anything up, those are both big signs that something might be wrong. So
yeah,
I mean, it's kind of hard to know if anything's wrong if you're never saying anything, but you get what I mean. This is why the regular check-ins
just
are
check
important.
in. Yeah.
And then secure people, we can't give you any advice because you're like a whole other species to us, so
Maybe we should get someone secure up in here.
They can be like, oh, like zoo animal that we like stare at and admire. It's fine, it only takes 3 years to fix your attachment style.
3 years is nothing in the grand scheme of things.
3 years is longer than your relationship.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I said.
Okay, yeah, fine. Okay, so anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and as always, you can find us on Instagram at Sextras Podcast, Facebook Sextras Podcast. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, of course. Visit our website, www.sextraspodcast.com, and tell all your friends to listen to our podcast if you enjoy. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to Sextras, presented by Honey Jane Wyatt and Maria Jose Hayodatiyi, produced by Mabel Productions.